Good evening, March 2nd, 2016, Board of Water Sewer Commissioners, Dudley, Massachusetts. Time is now 6:31, and we'll open this meeting. First item on the agenda, approval of the minutes from our February 3rd meeting. Has everyone received a copy of them and had an opportunity to review any suggestions, amendments?
Make a motion to accept the minutes of February 3rd.
And I'll second them.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is Lyons Road. Did I hear you say that Mr. Haynes is not going to be here?
Yes.
Is there anybody here this evening on the Lyons Road? Nope.
Yes, we put on the agenda for next month.
Okay. And the next item on the agenda for Marshall Terrace abatement.
Start on the abatement.
Are you Mr. and Mrs. Lavalley?
We are, I'm
You
Kathy.
Okay. Hi. Thank you for coming. So why don't we begin with you and just tell us what happened and when you became aware of it and.
Well, we were never notified that
Okay.
there was something wrong with the meter. Leaving notes for tenants isn't really acceptable because our name is on the bills. Not really tenants are really not going to obviously pass it along. I didn't realize it until I got a bill because the bills were so close,
Right.
always, until I got a bill for $98 and then I called and I said, that seems like a very small amount. So is there, what is the reasoning? So that's when we found all this out.
So in August you received a bill for $98.
$98.75, right?
Okay.
And until then, they had all been pretty,
Consistent.
yeah.
So this is the first time that the commission is kind of seeing all this, just so you know.
Oh,
So they
okay.
don't know
Right.
what happened. I'm assuming you all don't know.
I mean, there's two people that live in the apartment, one upstairs, one downstairs, so this is like not even, and the guy upstairs is 70, he's a disabled vet, he's not, they don't do a lot of laundry, it's not, this is $1,000 is not even realistic.
A lapse of what happened.
All right. Usually when we do our meter reading, if we have a problem reading the meter, we tag the houses, okay? And on your packet here, you have...
So this is a house that did not have a radio?
No, well, we're changing it over. It originally had a touchpad. It has a touchpad on it.
Yeah.
So there's something wrong with the wire. We couldn't get a reading off the meter in the cellar. So back in August, let's see, I got the things here.
August 19th of 2014 is when we first started estimating the bill.
Right.
It's been estimated since then?
Since then,
We've been tagging the house.
without
You know,
us being, I just feel like as owners, like they know, they're sending the bill to us, would it be really hard to just put a note in there? Or just pick up the phone and call us, because we pay our bills, we do everything we're supposed to do. So it's really,
So starting in August of 2014, that's when we started estimating?
Yes.
Okay. And we were estimating because
We couldn't get a reading.
the radio reader wasn't
The
working.
the outside pad wasn't working.
But it looks like we were estimating based on past usage, and because it all looks pretty consistent.
Yes.
Okay. And then what happened in August of 2015?
Change the meter.
We did it November 24th, we changed the meter.
November 24th
Of 2015.
Okay. So November, and still in the month of November, the reading was still pretty similar to prior months. It was 194.
Well, the quarterly reading again was estimated for 11/6, and then we got in there on 11/24 and changed the meter and got the actual meter reading on the original on the meter. So that's the reading you see. You can't see it. The system doesn't allow it. Doesn't, because it gets done behind the scenes for that when you see the 0 to 900. So I wrote it over here to the right. It's the way the system writes. Because I do that right when it happens, I switch out the meter. So it takes the consumption from the reading on 11/6, that 128851, and then the consumption from that to what the actual reading on the meter was 12,749 cubic feet. And you can see on this, the job work order, you can see what the reading was on the meter. It's 141600 when we pulled it out.
How did you go from 204 to 197 to 98? I mean, you know, everything else is kind of follows in suit, then all
And
of a
then
sudden
it's
it's $98.
216. Yeah, yes.
Yeah, well, during that quarter of August of 2015 is actually, we were changing out staff. That's when Eva was leaving and I was coming in. So Eva had done that
Actually, it was a
billing.
good thing though, otherwise I never
Eva
would
was
have
doing
did
that billing
Right.
cycle, so we did have a change of staff.
Right.
And if you never would have went to 98, we would still be going on and nobody would know.
And
about
how
this.
long would this have, you know, how long would this have accrued money?
How long would what have accrued?
I mean,
And it's money that
I mean,
you
it's
people-
money, you know, it's $1,000 right now. Like, I don't understand, how long would that have gone? I just don't understand how it can be $1,000.
Well,
I'm,
see, I don't think we're gonna get anywhere arguing about the usage, okay? The usage is there. I mean, the meters don't lie. I mean, the usage was there. The issue is that you were unaware of the usage, of the fact that there was an issue, apparently. I mean, has the issue been resolved?
no, that's why we're here.
Well,
Oh,
there's a new meter.
there's a new meter.
So the only thing that has transpired to this point
Just put a new meter in.
is that a new meter has gone in.
Right.
There's been no replacement of toilets, there's been no new tenants.
No. One person on each floor, one of them works all day and the other one is in.
And when I found out about the meter, I believe I called the water
He did.
department, and I said, you want to do it today? And they said, no, we'll do it next week one day, and we
And
did
they,
it as soon as
yeah, and they
possible.
did it as
So
soon as.
there's no problem there, you know?
I mean, we're home, so it's not like,
I did just some quick math. Their highest usage previous to 8/19/14 was the month right before that. Oh, two quarters before that, 2/16. So I rounded that to 2/15 just for ease of math. And then took the difference from all the estimateds to that, including the 98, and I came up with $245. $245 over added to even to that would be a $460 bill.
thank you.
I don't know how
Thank
how
you.
1,024 comes up. I've been where you are.
You have.
Well, I had a bad toilet in the basement.
See, we don't, and he checks
happened.
everything, and
Okay,
we have no outside faucets. I mean, it's just,
so
it's
just
not a
so,
laundromat.
yeah, there's nothing wrong with the calculation on the 1,024. The reason why it doesn't make sense is because you can't see the consumption from the meter when we pulled it out, because the system doesn't allow you to see it, because it's done on a different transaction. So that's why you have to, the consumption column for 13,649, that's the consumption, that's the 12,747, if you look to the right, is the consumption on the meter at the time we changed it out, difference from when we, the last reading of the quarter when we estimated it, plus the 900 cubic feet that was on the new meter head. So the calculation isn't wrong, it's just, they're questioning, could they have used that kind of water, not knowing, that it was estimated, and not taking care of it. Like if you had a leaky toilet and you didn't know about it, and then we were estimating it, can it happen? Absolutely, I've seen it happen a
Not
lot.
that much.
But-
Not that
A
much.
leaky toilet cost me $800
Really?
in one quarter.
I've seen,
One quarter.
Oh, wow.
I've seen 4,000.
I've been there. It happened. It's,
The whole thing is,
yeah.
But,
me and Kristen got together, and we gotta change our policy on what we're doing here. All right, once we find out it's an apartment house, and we're tagging it, we should have, we figured it out, the tenants aren't telling the landlords. So what we're gonna do from now on is write a letter to where the bill is going, and saying we need to get in to check the meter. instead of keep tagging the place and the tenants just throwing the cart out the door, and not paying attention to it. These tenants should have let the landlords know that there was a problem with the water meter, and they did.
Okay, so as it stands right now, what I'd like to do is I'd like to take this under advisement and rework some calculations based more on your past usage, and somehow or another take into consideration the fact that we, in spite of the fact that we definitely did leave notice, we obviously never did get in touch with you.
Thank
And we've
you.
got to find a better way to do that.
Thank you.
And if the board is in agreement with that, we'll work that as part of our,
I'd like to see what their next quarter is.
Well,
Yes,
that's
that's
what
what
we,
I was
that's
gonna
what
say.
we would like to
The toilet was
see
leaking
too.
and it gets fixed.
But we don't have,
But the whole
we
thing is,
don't,
the meter doesn't lie.
Yeah, I
The
know.
water went through the meter, that's
So
all.
you're telling us you changed the meter for what reason? Was there a problem with the
There was a
meter?
problem.
We're going to a new system.
We're changing all the meters in town for the.
but was there a
radio.
problem with our meter? Because I just can't imagine how it could be that much usage without a problem.
Like I said, that's all you need is a toilet leaking and never noticed it, okay? But the whole thing is, the reading I gave on a job order came off the meter head right here. So the water went through the meter somewhere. That's all my job is to tell you. The water went through the meter. Where it went, I don't know. How it went there. But the meter doesn't speed up.
You went in there and there was nothing leaking, we flushed everything.
So I
We
did
flushed-
calculate the average daily use. If you take the 900 cubic feet from when we replaced the meter head and divide by the number of days that have occurred, and it comes out that the average use is right on. It was about 1,500, anywhere from 1,300 to 1,500, and that's, you know, our estimated amount was, you know, correct. The system actually estimates it for you. It takes the quarters and it averages them. So I don't come up with a number, it actually does it for me. I just hit estimate it and then it plugs it in. So, you know, that 900, I know you're looking to see what the next quarter is, but, you know, the same, it's gonna stay right in line with those numbers, so.
well, the issue might have been the fact that we could not get a reading because something was wrong with our radio meter.
It's not a radio, it was something wrong with one of the wires going out to the pad that's outside the house, and we couldn't get a reading off the meter.
Okay, but that was just the issue that accidentally brought this to your attention. Otherwise,
Right,
you may never have known about this.
we would know.
Okay, so I guess what we're saying to you is that we do believe that we have some accurate readings here, but we also believe that we have a duty to be able to get in touch with owners when owners do not live at a property, and when we know that they're not the tenants of the property.
Thank you. I
So
appreciate
somewhere
that.
in there, we've got to find a way to compromise this, and I just don't think we can do that in the meeting right now.
Okay.
So let us take it under advisement. Let us come up with some type of acceptable alternative to this, and we'll notify you of that. And then if that's not acceptable to you, we can talk again, but I think it will be.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Did you sign in there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Did you give in your number? Just to make sure. I
Yes,
know I
my
have it, I
house
just
phone.
wanna make sure.
Thank you very much. We don't need them.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you.
You want to take these?
Hi there. Hi. We're just kind of moving through our agenda, and there's no one else in the room tonight, so what's your business before the board tonight?
We have concerns related to the proposed cemetery on Corbin Road, and I have a couple questions for the board about that project.
Well, I don't know what our possible involvement in that could be, but come on up.
Do you mind signing it, sir?
Sure.
And I would assume the young lady just kind of got dragged along.
Yeah. Get scared at night in the dark in the woods on Corbin Road. My name's Matt Dix. I live on 184 Corbin Road in Dudley, Mass. The ongoing proposed cemetery project for Corbin Road, I'm involved in, I don't know, I guess, understanding the potential issues and maybe protecting the property that I own. And one of the ideas that was brought up during the ZBA and the Board of Health meetings that have gone on was talking about maybe a bond in case our private wells were rendered no longer good due to contamination. And one of my questions to the board, this board is, and I don't even know if you can answer me now, if we had to tie into city water, if the contamination contaminated there's 41 private wells that abut that property, if that were to happen, city water, where would be the closest point to get it down Corbin Road? And I'm sure it's a monumental task, but
It's a mile and a half away.
it's a mile and a half away. Over by, I'm assuming, Shepherd Hill area?
Well, it goes to Corbin Cemetery. Right there, it stops at Corbin Cemetery.
So we get the
That's one way. And the other way is at the last hydrant on Ram's Horn. Do you know where I believe the Healy's live, or?
The roundhouses? Isn't it near the roundhouses?
Yeah, the last roundhouse.
Mhm.
Where that hydrant is right there, that's where it stops
So we'd
there.
have to get picked up from there and extended,
Right.
probably looped,
Loop door, yeah, yeah.
something like that. All right, that and, did you want to bring up the well?
Yeah,
This is another,
another issue.
okay.
My name is Mary Sansucci.
Well, hi there, I think we talked.
We did, we had a conversation last week about the well that in 1997 that the town drilled on the Meninsky property, which is the property also under consideration for this cemetery. And our conversation, you explained that the town didn't think it was a worthwhile project because it was radon in the water.
Well, I mean, what I said was that we drilled there, we did a test drilling, and I think what we found, and John might know better, is that it was a good source from a volume point of
It was
view.
like 200 gallons a
Yeah,
minute.
but from a quality point of view, there were problems. The major problem was the radon, the existence of radon.
Okay. Were any of you people on the board at the time?
I was superintendent,
You were?
yeah,
Oh, so you know all about it.
yes,
So when you decide you're going to explore
yep.
Dudley for a new water source, how do you go about that?
Well, it's called a hydrogeological map. We have a guy that comes in and looks at the area, and you can see where the glaciers went and stuff like that. They
Yeah.
can figure out where good quality of water is,
Uh-huh.
and that's when we go in there and drill and see if we can come up with some
Okay.
water.
So my question to you is, that would be also commonly called an aquifer?
That's it, yes, yes.
Okay.
If we put a well in there, the area around it would be called the aquifer.
Well,
And how
That's
far
feeding
down?
the well.
How far down were we set to drill at that site?
We were set to drill down to almost 700 feet, 300 feet or so.
380.
We hit so much water we couldn't drill anymore. So it was a great well, but the radon was 16,000 parts per billion, and at the time, it was only 10 parts per billion allowed by the state. So in order to get rid of the radon, you have to aerate it. And in my understanding with our engineer, we would have to pump it 3 times into the aeration to get all the radon out of it, and then put a 1.5 mile main to tie into our system. And also with the filters would end up become hazardous waste. We have to get rid of the filters for the radon. And at that time, we figured it wasn't feasible for us to continue on this well.
So aside from the radon issue, we also looked at the fact that it was so far away from our...
Right. We would have really considered buying the land if it wasn't for the radon, because of such a quality of water. But with the radon and have to pump it 3 times, so our electric bill would have been 3 times our normal well.
John, is that well still there?
Yes.
Yeah, it's this
Eight-
casing
eight-inch well.
that comes, an 8-inch casing that comes
Would it
right out of the
be-
ground.
worth our time to check to see if it's still radon? How long ago was it tested?
97.
97.
I was personally curious to see, I mean, 97, it was so long ago, could the technology have changed? I mean, I'm not a water treatment expert, but things have traveled a long way in almost 20 years. Could it be
But the
a
fact,
simpler process? I mean, I don't know.
the fact remains, though, that there are sources of water that you can take out of the ground and just put into pipes. So any kind of, you have to look at all the impediments to that, because they become fixed costs going forward. They never go away. You know, in terms of, you know, looking at it again, you know, I mean, it might not be a bad idea to look into how much it would cost to check that site out again. But you know, I'd really hesitate to do that as a coy way of getting us involved in this fight against the Muslim cemetery. I mean, it really would have to be on our agenda as something that we were considering anyway.
You should call it a cemetery, because we personally don't think that any cemetery, whether it's Lutheran or Methodist or Muslim or Orthodox, belongs in the midst of a residential area with 41 private wells in the immediate area. And the other question I have for you, I have a letter here from EarthTech, and they wrote this letter in '97.
I've got a copy of it.
And they say it would be a great well for Dudley. I'm just saying water is a precious commodity. Maybe down the road it would be. But what I'm looking for are the maps with an aquifer, because if you're getting 200 gallons a minute, and I'm not any kind of hydrologist, it would seem to me that this well tapped into an aquifer. Do you follow my?
Yeah.
So would you be
But
willing?
it was down 300 and some odd feet.
380 feet. They couldn't go to the 700 because of the volume of water coming out of the ground.
So it either caught a crack or something, you know, whether it's an aquifer or not. It definitely, there's not a question about the source of water. I mean, there's a source there.
No, this is, okay, in order for the water department to put a well there, okay, first of all, we have to find the water. Second of all, we have to find out where the water's coming from, okay? And that's when we have to put a whole bunch of more wells around that well to figure out which way the flow's coming. And I was not sure, I don't think that was a gravel well, I don't know if we were into bedrock. And on bedrock, we don't know where the flow comes from, because it comes through fractures. It
Right.
could come miles away. I mean, I don't know if you people were around here in, on the way to Southbridge. Remember that pipe that used to stick out of the rocks? And people thought it was the greatest water in the world?
It wasn't.
Right, it was coming from up the hill where people have their septic tanks, and that water was contaminated, and they thought it was the greatest one. Because it was coming through bedrock, nobody knew where it was coming from.
My father thought that was the best one.
Right, see that, and DEP frowns on bedrock because we don't know where the water's coming from, because it comes through the fractures. And that would have been a hard well, first of all, because there's radon. Well, a mile and a half away from our water main, and we don't know where the water's coming from. We'd have to drill a whole bunch of wells all around the place, even to get it. See, on a gravel packed well, once you pump the well, the water level, which way the flow is coming, drops. So we know which way the water is coming from. In bedrock, we can't do that.
I see.
So that would be a very difficult well to do.
But do we know if that was bedrock?
Huh?
Do we know for sure that was bedrock?
I don't remember
Okay.
exactly, but they drilled a big 8-inch well, so they were had a heck of a time. Usually in gravel packed well, you only pound down a 2.5-inch pipe, like we did at Station 6 on
But this
Boston
is
Road.
an 8-inch.
Right, so they went with the bigger diameter.
Right.
Because usually we only go down with a 2.5-inch pipe, pound it down with a machine, if it's gravel. If we went that big, it's in bedrock.
Well, would you be able to help me obtain some maps with aquifers in this particular region?
And the purpose of that would be,
I want to know where the water is going and where it's, if it's underneath that property.
Well, ma'am,
Would we have any maps like that?
if we do, I'm not sure, but the only reason, they're just guessing, they're looking at these maps and we're guessing that's where the water is, and we drill and we find water. There are many locations we thought there was gonna be water, and it wasn't any. I mean, we drilled all over Dudley. And a lot of places thought there was gonna be water there, it wasn't.
About 12 years ago, I was a water commissioner, and I remember that we were drilling all over the place trying to find another water source. And that was around the time that we started shutting down the main station here. Everything comes from down.
So do you have in your possession any maps of aquifers?
Well, that's why we hire these engineers, and they do all this work for us. With the maps and all that stuff.
But the water department doesn't have any such
If I
animal?
do Navy, I had one back in '97 in that book, maybe there's a map there, I'm not sure. But I would have to go back and look into the history and see if I can come up with anything.
We can do that.
And do you know if there's any law, that code, excuse me, there's any law that dictates, I know the World Health Organization recommends that a well and a cemetery be at minimum of 850 feet apart. Do you have any information?
I don't, a well, what, a municipal well?
A well,
A residential well?
any well?
Didn't delineate between whether it was municipal or private. It
Right.
just said drinking source, drinking water source well.
I know that we have requirements for distance when we are looking to put in a municipal well, which is another fact that might preclude us from being able to use that site in 2016 versus in 1996, because the DEP's requirements have changed. So we might, I don't know if we have enough setback at that site now or not, but as far as, we'll share with you any information that we still have from those initial siting efforts in
I'm
1996.
very thankful.
Yeah. But like I said, I'm very reluctant myself to allow this issue of that old well and whether or not we want to reactivate it, and for that,
I'm not asking
To
you
be
to
used as-
reactivate it, I would
yeah.
just like to see these maps.
yeah, okay.
I don't think so.
So why don't you give us a couple days to dig through our old books? How many days?
Oh, we gotta give us some more time, now we're very good work, I got a bunch of stuff with DEP I gotta get done. Kristen's trying to help me with this DEP. We gotta give us at least 2 weeks.
Okay.
Who should I call?
In-
Mr. Meehan?
Kristen, at the office.
Yeah,
You're
give
at
Kristen
the
a call at
office?
the office, yeah. Okay, Mr. Meehan, the Water Sewer Superintendent Report.
Please.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, okay, we finished repairing the meters and the bills went out. As you can see, the first customer came here. We are working on a sewer department truck. The old box truck was all rusty and all that stuff. So George has been working all winter on it, cutting out the rust, bonding it, painting it all up and taking care of the truck, getting it back into
Who's doing all that?
George. George is in the garage doing all that work. So he's been busy doing that. We replaced 5 line gate boxes that were hit by plows because there was no frost in the ground, and they did a ton of damage to us on the line gate boxes. FR Mahoney will be finishing up Tan Yard next week for that alarm system that he's been doing. We put in about 40 radio readers. Now here's something to the board, okay? I found out there's a generator in Garden City where you guys, the sewer department put in many years ago, over 10 years ago, and Shields ended up buying all those houses and tearing it down. That generator there has been sitting there for 10 years, and you bought it brand new, and it's never been used. All right?
We didn't buy it.
Well, whoever, well, it's been
Town-
sitting,
the town bought it.
It's been sitting there for 10 years.
Okay.
and never been used.
At a
Okay.
pump station?
No, the pump station is no longer being used because the houses are all gone.
Okay, oh yeah, at that, okay, that old station.
Right, okay? I want to take that generator out of there and bring it over to Luther Lane, that we can put that generator to use over there, to run that pump station. You know, I just found out about that generator sitting there. And I went over there with, I had some of the guys over there with a battery, and it turns over still, so it's not seized. So that generator is still good. So I just want to make sure it's okay with the board that I can take this generator, make a platform over by Luther Lane, because that's the same size motor that was over there in Garden City, and set it up in there so we have a generator at Luther Lane.
Okay, so this generator, you said, was purchased by the town.
At the town that had an article for $125,000 to put that pump station in.
To put the pump station in.
Tom McCaskill pushed it
Okay.
through with it,
And then that it was all turned over to the sewer department to manage?
to maintain it, yeah.
Okay, so do you think we need a motion then to move that generator?
My only question is, do we own it to use it?
Well, it was turned over to us, right?
It's a pumping station, it's a sewer pumping
We
station.
maintain it, but I don't think we owned it.
Yeah.
If any
Well, I mean,
any cost on that, if it was costing the upkeep, it didn't come from us.
Well, it hasn't been used.
I know,
But it's
but
been-
when it was in use, it was only in use for a little over a year.
Right, and it's been down since.
But anything that, any money incurred on that, you know, when Louis was in charge, the town paid for it.
okay.
Paid to build the station, but they didn't maintain the station, did they?
We didn't, we did the daily checks on it, but we weren't responsible for spending cash for it.
Right, but then again, if you only use it for a year and it shut down and nothing broke. So that generator's just sitting there for over 10 years, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It's made for outdoors, to sit outdoors, and like I said, it turns over, and it's a water waste of a generator sitting there.
Yeah, no question about that. But why was this pumping station paid for by the town and not the users?
Because that's the way the article was written.
Was this something that we were required by the state to do?
Yes, the state was requiring the town to, because those 5 houses had a pipe right into the river.
Okay. Okay, so, well, my feeling is this would fall into the same exact category as the entire system when that was turned over to the enterprise.
I agree.
Yeah. So this is just another piece of that system that was turned over at a later date to us for ongoing operational support. I say go take it, use it in one of our other pumping stations. And
It doesn't make any sense
it's
to
a
leave it
waste.
sitting there.
It's a waste.
Yeah, it is a waste. I was just so shocked that, brand new. You know, and we can use it on Luther Lane.
Is there
And now-
anything else down at that station?
Huh?
Is there anything else down at that
Well,
station?
yeah, there's a couple motors and pumps, but we have to pump it up to see what, there's brand new motors. What motors would that fit? Yeah, we could use them somewhere else if they break down, but I gotta pump it up. But I can't do it now because the sewer department has absolutely no money in their budget to do anything.
And these houses are gone.
They're gone.
Yeah, they tore them all down.
And Shields goes, all their sewage goes over to Webster. Dory doesn't touch it anymore.
Go ahead, take a good look at it, see what else is there that we can use.
I gotta pull out those pumps out of there, if the same size as you can use on Luther Lane or anything like that. I mean, it's crazy, that stuff is just sitting there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, all right, the town warrant opened. The town warrant opened on February 22nd, and it closes on April 8th. All right, so I'm trying to get, I want to put on a warrant, is the water main on Mill Street, and we're gonna take that out of retained earnings. All right? The new sewer pump and generator for Old Lakeview Ave, I'd like to get that on sewer, put it in for the sewer, to take it out of their capital. Not capital, I mean, the retained earnings.
Okay, so that was discussed at the last
We
meeting
discussed
as
that
well.
last meeting, yeah.
Yep. I already got people come down to look at the motors already. I haven't got prices on what it's gonna cost to replace those motors yet. But those are things we're gonna put on it. Because our next meeting is after the warrant closes,
Chairman,
I think, right?
that taking the money from the retained earnings.
Yeah.
I know we discussed that, but
Yeah.
we're supposed to get a letter from Webster
I
making
thought-
sure that
Right.
we don't need that money in retained earnings to pay Webster.
Right, I just talked to Mark today, he kind of dropped the ball on it a little bit, and he's going to get it on a letterhead from the town of Webster stating the numbers that he gave Mark are the true numbers of where we stand. But in the meantime, I gotta get this thing all set up. Mark will get it to us as soon as, he'll get onto it, he'll just start doing it tomorrow.
Well, let's do what we need to do to meet the deadlines for getting on the warrant. We can always remove things later,
Okay.
we can amend them on the floor, but we cannot do anything if we miss that April 8th deadline.
Right. And I also want to put money in, and get a price from Mark from the I to get that project going. So those are the water main, the pump station, and the generator, and the I. To get from Mark so we can put it into the town warrant.
Correct.
That's all I have.
Okay, so, once again, I just want to remind you that the selectmen do want a copy of our minutes after they're approved, and they also want a copy of your notes.
That's all in the minutes.
It's all in the minutes.
All in the minutes.
In the same detail that you presented, pretty much?
Yes, it's in your package, you see exactly. Kristen Lee writes it and puts it in,
Okay. Okay, so that takes care of the next item on the agenda as well, the School Street, Mill Street project update.
okay, Mark just gave this, we just got it yesterday on for the bids, all right? He already got the packet all set together, and I'm gonna look through it, make sure everything's gonna be all right. I'm marking out dig safe now, we're calling in dig safe tomorrow, so they're gonna mark out all the the gas main. So when he has somebody coming down this weekend to walk it, to see where everything is. Because when you call dig safe, you have 3 days to get it marked. And the only thing that's in that area is gas. So we can kind of plan where we want to put our water main. And had a discussion with the department head meeting last Wednesday, and the people from Stevens Linen were there. And I explained to them that we're putting a new water main in there, and we need to know what size water mains they want coming into the mill, so as we're going by, we can put these things in and where they want them.
Okay, the people from Stevens Linen were at our department head meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
And I explained to them that we're putting in the water main, and that their engineer is going to get a hold of Mark and talk to him what exactly they would like to see as we're putting this new water main in, what they need for the sizes, for a sprinkler system, domestic, and stuff like that.
Okay.
So it's all worked out with the mill as we're going. So when we go by it, everybody's happy.
And why don't you give an update on our meeting today with Greg, Debbie, and the finance board on the 2017 budget?
And each one of you guys in your packet, you have the new budget that me and Danny went over and we made up, and we went in front of the town administrator and Debbie Thibodeau, and there was some gentleman there from the FAA. And we went over our budget, and
Mr. Siganovich, right?
Siganovich. And the only problems that we had a complaint about was some of the numbers that we were getting from the town for group insurance and stuff like that. At the end of last June, there was $66,000 in the water department left over from the numbers we got from the town. So my budget had to cover that $66,000, okay? And Debbie always saying we're going over budget on, then our revenue.
Yep.
Well, like I explained to him, there was $66,000 that we had to cover, it was never used.
So, in other words, John uses the word cover, but in other words, we were given numbers by Rich that were higher than they needed to be.
Absolutely.
We included those numbers in our budget. It resulted in an overage that we're carrying forward into retained earnings now.
We were running the same problem, so
On the water department side, it was $66,000, on the sewer department side, it was $35,000. And we could have used
that's
that
been going on
money,
in it.
we could have used that money elsewhere. That,
Well, Greg seems to feel, though, that there is a better way estimate those numbers. He doesn't feel that this should be an ongoing problem. So he's going to, and Debbie's going to talk to Rich about it and see if he can do a better job on that. Now, did you get the changes that we didn't? Did you get those changes? Okay, so during the meeting, we did some changes.
Yeah, 1.4 and stuff like that.
Right,
You
on
filled it
Medicaid
in.
and,
Yeah.
and health insurance. Health insurance was an extra 6%.
Yeah.
So we need to make those changes and resubmit that.
It's different than the numbers that Rich is going to get?
Yeah, it's gonna be higher,
Oh,
because everything's gone up 6%.
okay.
I'll get to you.
Just looking at the sewer budget. Sewer, yes. Budget 216 versus 270, there's something obviously wrong, because everything is showing as a, it's bracketed usually means a
Negative.
negative.
In this case, it just means December, I think. What are the brackets?
Yeah, it could be the formula.
It's saying a minus 100%
Right.
a 100% decrease over last year. The increase, decrease percent right next to it, something's obviously wrong there.
Yeah, this is not the copy we went into the meeting with, incidentally.
Okay, sorry.
And I-
Well, the
Okay.
the superintendent number and everything is the same as the... Debbie sends out this form with the formulas and everything in it, so I'll see if, why it's so different, this one versus...
But the bottom line for proposed 17 to 16 is right.
Okay, so those columns are right, okay.
Right.
Yeah,
So we're just $300 more.
Yeah, actually, this particular one has the town administrator's recommended column in it. That might be what's screwing it up, because that's all zero.
yeah.
That those brackets are off of that,
Yeah,
coming off of that column.
Yeah.
That column's not in the water budget. That column shouldn't be there.
Well, that's how she sends it, because then it goes to, then she sits with Greg and they put down what they recommend, and they go back and forth with it, so.
No, that's not their budget.
But all in all, we're going to be staying right at the 2016 budget. 2016, 2017 is going to be same right item. A couple $1,000 difference, that's about it.
Yeah, looks like, what, $1,300 difference on the water side?
$300 difference on the sewer.
Is that enough to,
Yep.
that's enough to?
Well, that's all we got. So instead of taking the money and putting it back into retained earnings, we're going to use it on operations and start getting things up to scale.
Good.
Anything more on the budget? Okay. The next item, item number 8, I asked to be put on the agenda. Right now, we split the superintendent's salary 70-30 between the water and the sewer department. And it just strikes me that really the same logic should probably apply to the clerk's salary. Right now, we split that 50-50, and I don't know what the board thinks about that.
Is there a difference in the workload? I mean, billing is billing.
In terms of phone calls and service work over the counter.
Yeah, I mean,
I would think that she's-
water is more than sewer. I mean, there's more invoices for water.
Okay.
That I process. And phone calls would, I mean, really the phone calls would be,
They are what they are, yeah.
yeah, I mean, it'd be questions on the bills normally, or,
But if there's a question on the bill, it's both bills, right?
could be both, yeah. So it's hard to.
It could be, yeah, some folks have just sewer.
But if you take this discussion just one step further, I mean, this is a very legitimate opportunity for us to kind of work the economies of the two departments so that we really are in a legitimate position to save the sewer department some much-needed money, and it's very justifiable
Yeah, we can try it. I mean,
to save the sewer enterprise.
So that basically, what's a 40,000?
Because we split the phone bills and the office supplies 70/30 between water and sewer. So it's odd that, yeah, like, what's
40/30.
50/50
Yeah.
So
come
that would
from?
be
Yeah,
about 30/10 instead of 20/20.
right. So why don't we take a motion on that then?
I'll move to distribute split the salary for the administrative assistant in the same manner as the superintendent, at currently 70/30.
I'll second that motion.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We'll move those numbers around.
Okay, any other business before the board tonight?
John, just that letter you're gonna get from Webster, it's gonna say that we're paid in full?
It's gonna be coming that, the numbers that he gave Mark Devine, are the true numbers from the Webster Sewer Plant. And that's where we are.
But it's how you interpret those numbers is how the bill is made.
Right?
Well, what do you mean by that?
The-
Mark went over the last year and a half
Yes,
and figured out that we don't owe them any money.
I understand that. Is
And
Webster okay with that? That's
He got the numbers from Webster.
right, but he
Okay.
figured out the numbers. My question is did Webster figure the numbers the same way?
He's gonna verify with Webster what the numbers that he has and what he sent are the true numbers, and he's going to have Webster come back on a Webster Waterhead saying, yes, these numbers are right and we're trued up.
Okay, so these are the usage numbers for the entire sewer enterprise.
Right.
Our percent and their percent.
Yes, for the last year and a half, the numbers that he's received from the sewer superintendent Webster, the true numbers, and like I said, Mark ended up figuring out we owe him 1 day.
If it's on letterhead.
Right, but the question with Webster has never been,
You're asking if the entire true-up has been resolved. That's what you're asking, really.
yeah,
It hasn't been.
because the numbers have always, there's never been in question what the numbers are, because we get the numbers every day that we're getting the flows. The question is...
No, but we don't know what their numbers are.
No, we always got the daily flow for what Dudley, so we get the flows, the total flow, so we can figure out what their flow is. The question has been with Webster is the allocation of costs to each line item. How much,
So this would be something that would drive up the overall costs of the operation, their costs included. So a higher number, so they would put in a higher number and the percentage would be higher. That's what you're saying?
yes, example, chemicals used. Were the chemicals used at the plant or were they used on their collection system? Well, if it's used at the plant, we're paying a percentage of that chemicals. If it's used on a collection system, we're not paying anything.
Plant improvements.
Yeah, so this is all tied to your reluctance to move forward on using retained earnings for the Mill Street project if we're
Not
not...
Mill Street, no,
School Street. School Street.
no.
Lakeview Ave,
Lakeview Ave.
Lakeview Ave, with the new
The pumping
pumps and
station.
motors and
Yes.
Well, I mean-
generator. We're gonna take that out of retained earnings. Tom's worried about if we owe Webster this money, he was gonna take the money out of retained earnings to pay Webster off.
Right.
And I'm saying that Mark is saying that we don't owe them any money, and we should take the money out of retained earnings to update these stations so they're...
Okay, that's gonna come from the sewer department. Please make sure that they're passing that through Main Street. Passing that through the town hall.
What are you talking about?
The bill, because the sewer department has been going back and forth with Webster for years over these true-ups. these numbers, because what fits, what is part of the plant, what isn't. It's more than just the flows, the flow numbers. If we can get that on Town of Webster letterheading,
Yeah, but I think what Tom's saying is that still wouldn't satisfy him unless there's an acknowledgement that this is the final true-up and the numbers, the amount that we've been paying monthly for the past 16 months is therefore accurate. And I'm not sure we need to tie the retained earnings, the use of retained earnings on Lake Street to that, because the alternative is, I mean, that project on Lake Street, Lakeview Ave,
Lakeview Ave.
needs to be done. The alternative is that we issue a bond on it. And right now, the cost of borrowing is very, very low. So, I mean, if we have to borrow for this project, that's something we can do. My question is, if we needed to borrow because of a shortfall in retained earnings to pay the town of Webster, would we be able to do that as well? I mean, I just can't see sitting on this money.
there's a difference between borrowing to make improvements and borrowing to pay regular bills.
Yeah, but we've been asking for bills for how long, and they haven't even given us.
That's been the battle for years.
The way I look at it, I mean, we've been asking for years so far.
Yep.
And they have nothing. They came with nothing. So when they come up with a bill, it's going to take us a couple of years to pay you. You know, we've been asking for how long? We had the money, been sitting here, and we need this money to update our system. And like I said, it's been 5 years.
I mean, I think that we've seen a lot of progress since we've asked Mark to get involved in this. Like I said earlier, we've got a deadline here, it's April 8th, to get on the warrant. You know, we need to cite a source of funding. I still think we should use retained earnings. However, we have time to change our mind on that. I just don't want to miss the deadline.
And we also can change the town meeting from taking from retained earnings
Would we
to...
not be better suited to, because I'm pretty sure you can't borrow money to pay
Pay
bill.
regular bills. I don't think we can.
but we could, if we borrowed the money, because I agree that it's dire that they get fixed. If we borrow the money and then realize down the road we do have money left in retained earnings, could we not then transfer that money out of retained earnings to pay off the bill?
So you'd rather put a source of funding as borrowing?
What was the cost of rebuilding that station?
I haven't got the numbers yet. But we have over 400,000 in retained earnings. I don't see this costing any more than 200,000 for 2 motors and a generator. And I don't know what Mark's gonna come up with the I&I to get started on that.
So if it's 200 for the generators and
Well, it's not gonna be $200 for a generator. I don't think it's gonna be that much money. I'm talking about the motors are gonna be probably 30 to 40 grand a piece. So there's 2 motors there.
yeah.
Get them installed, you know? So I'm looking, I'm just guessing, 200 grand. You're gonna have 200 grand left in retained earnings.
Right, but then we gotta spend money on the I&I,
Right.
so how much is it?
I don't know.
Right,
But
so-
as long as the whole thing is with the I&I, as long as we're doing something, we have an engineer working on it, the state's not gonna touch us.
Why don't we move forward with the article citing the source of funding as borrowing and continue to follow up with Mark and get the letter. We haven't even seen this letter, so it's hard to argue what it says or doesn't say. Maybe that'll make us more comfortable, maybe it won't, but this way here, we're at least going to meet the deadline of April 8th.
And like I said, I think if we borrow it and realize we have the money, I'm pretty sure we can take it out of retained earnings to pay that bill off with an article. But I don't think,
But to me, it just gets me that since this board's been together, we've been after Webster to give us what we owe, and nothing's come.
I've been on the sewer board for a long time, and it's been like that since day
And
one.
the way I look at it is, why don't we just use our money where we have retained earnings? You've been asking for, okay, let's say 10 years, okay? And they still haven't come back with it. Hey, we had the money, we waited 10 years, you guys, and so now we're taking the money out of retained earnings and doing this. I mean, we wrote letters to you, you have all the certified letters and everything that, and they didn't do anything. They're not moving on it, so why are we still worried about paying Webster if they don't care about it?
When that,
Because potentially it could be a bill there.
Right, but then we would expect you to pay it right off, you've been only asking for it for 10
You know,
years.
the thing is, though, that we do have an intermunicipal contract with them.
Right,
And the
okay,
contract requires certain things to happen. It probably also has responsibility when those things do not happen. So let's just, I'm satisfied with the results we've gotten since we asked Mark to get involved. Let's just, I'm not happy we don't have the letter tonight, but he said that he dropped the ball on that. But let's just get that for the next meeting, and in the meantime, use as the source of funding on that article.
I'll put it this way, as soon as I get the letter from Mark, we'll make sure everybody on this board gets a copy of this letter. And find out, because the next meeting is 2 days before the article, the warrant closes.
Right.
So everybody, we can get all our things in a row and make sure it's all set.
Sounds good.
okay,
So are you going to wait until after that meeting to submit our articles?
Oh, no, we're gonna have it all written up. I'm gonna get all the numbers in, all written up.
But you're not going to hand them in until after?
No,
Oh,
right, until everything's, well, until you guys are happy with the letter. And the water department will pass ours in.
Yep.
All
we
right,
can submit those as well. We can, like I said, you can change the source of funding. That can be changed on the town meeting floor. We want to change it from borrowed to retained earnings. We have the money in retained earnings, it's been certified that we don't, or that we're satisfied that we don't need it to pay bills. We're good.
Okay.
So we can do it that way. So rather than holding up the process that's going to have to happen down the hall, get those questions in, get those articles into them, and like this, we can change it. We can change the numbers down, we can't change them up on the town meeting floor. So make sure the numbers are right, but
Okay.
What does the selectmen require something like in writing from the board to put the warrant on? Is there anything that's going to be required to list the warrant? I guess I'm asking.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, I'll take you through that.
Okay,
It's very specific wording,
Yeah.
just to make sure we've done everything here, so
and we
we don't have
should,
to wait.
and we should rely heavily on Greg for assistance on that too.
Well,
if
I'll
necessary.
show you what has to be written up, we give it to Greg, make sure everything's all set. Any changes have to be done, get it changed.
they can get that done, over the next couple of weeks.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
I gotta go to the key.